I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. Now, I got a news story for you, and it's going to come from a few different sources. But last week, I was looking on the news, just seeing what new was popping up that week, and I came across a story about the female actor Allison Max. Sorry, the female actor Allison Mack. She got arrested last week for recruiting women into a sex trafficking operation. I said, "Oh, that's interesting," but I wasn't sure if I was going to do a story about it. But then when I was reading the article, I did see someone just type out a comment on the bottom about how the person asked, "Why is it that Allison Mack is getting all this press about her recruiting women into sex trafficking and being a sex slave?" But the founder of the organization was not, because the owner of the owner and the creator of the organization, Keith Rainier, he was also charged with sex trafficking conspiracy, and forced labor conspiracy. Then the name of the organization is Nexium, but just how it's spelled, because they don't have missing the E vowel, so it looks like something else, and just how it is, it just doesn't look right. But they call it Nexium. But he was arrested last month, so it is very interesting that I didn't really say anything about this last month, but she's but Allison Mack is posted all over the internet because of her charges she got levied on her. Of course, I want to come out and say, of course, it's because number one, she's a famous actor that's been on the small screen on TV show. I think it's for 10 or 11 years, so that's a long time for someone to be on one show. So it's a real popular show, Smallville. I liked it at least for the first 5 or 6 seasons. I didn't know it went 10 years, but she's famous for that. So that's one reason why that she's getting a lot of publicity about this charge, or these charges that were brought on her. The second reason, of course, is because she's a really attractive woman. At least that's my opinion, my thoughts. I'm sure a lot of other people will think that she's attractive too, so that's why it's just all over the news. And that's why it has been all over the news, because she's been released on a $5 million bond a few days after she was arrested. And I'm looking at this on CNN Entertainment. That's another gripe I have about this, is that this is a serious incident she's involved in, about trying to convince women to join this group so they become sex slaves. So, for whatever reason, I guess because she was a famous actor, that they want to put it in her entertainment. But the basis of the story is that she possibly have committed these crimes of sex trafficking, and that's way more important than just the fact that she used to be an actor for a TV show. So I don't like that they have it categorized in entertainment when the bulk of the story and the meat of the story, or the heart of the story, is that is of the sex trafficking, not that she used to be an actor. And I just also want to bring into context just human trafficking in general, that for the most part you don't really see news stories about that at all. I think a lot of it is because it's just modern day slavery, and since our society, especially white people, can't really even be honest about our history of slavery that this nation has had even just a few hundred years ago, and can't be honest about those facts that went on back then, it really exacerbates the problem of that. Yes, there's still slavery going on today, and there's a few things we as a society need to do to try to alleviate that, or reduce the amount of people that get shoved and forced into slavery and sex trafficking or forced labor. And then also did want to talk about how sex trafficking is a problem because it goes unnoticed here in the United States. Okay, I'll read a little bit of this from the Atlantic. Okay, and I'll start right here. It's an issue with which law enforcement agencies in the U.S. continually struggle. Detective Bill Wolf with the Northern Virginia Human Trafficking Task Force has experienced this firsthand. Over the course of his tenure, he's interviewed over 300 victims. In many cases, those of it who have been exploited believe that they are offenders. Wolf told me they fear law enforcement because they're technically committing a crime, and that is prostitution. Okay, I'll continue a little bit. The Department of Homeland Security defines human trafficking as a modern-day form of slavery involving the illegal trade of people for exploitation or commercial gain. In 2012, the International Labor Organization estimated that there are 20.9 million human trafficking victims worldwide. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, sexual exploitation is the most commonly identified form ahead of forced labor. I'll skip down a little bit. But it's unclear whether the numbers are an accurate representation of the problem because many cases aren't reported. So one thing, of course, that we need to do is create laws that actually protect the victims of human trafficking and actually make sure they're not getting charged with any crimes. Because if you're forced to do something, the government really needs to look out for you and protect victims and not just say, oh, well, even though you're a victim, you still committed some crime, so we're going to charge you with something about breaking the law, so sorry. Another thing that we as a society need to consider is just making prostitution legal. And I know a lot of conservatives aren't going to be for this because in the Bible it talks about how prostitution's a crime, or about how prostitution's a sin and people shouldn't do it, but when it comes down to it, people are going to go seek out sex, and whether it's legal or illegal, people are going to do it. So as a society, we're actually hurting ourselves by punishing people for doing what they want to do, number one. Number two, you're also taking people's freedoms away because people want to go, and if they want to go spend some money so someone can have sex with them, that's their business, and you're getting in the way of their freedom of being able to do that. And number three is that prostitution being illegal is a burden for all these men and women that are forced into sexual exploitation. And no, I'm not saying that if we make prostitution legal that this problem is gonna go away, because it's not. But the idea is that it's gonna limit some of it, and some of the victims will be able to come out and say, hey, I'm a victim of human trafficking and I need some help, and law enforcement will actually be able to go out and help them and get them out of their status of being a slave. And then one thing I also need to bring up is that President Trump actually has been talking about how he wants to go after human trafficking because, well, he states is that it's worse than any other time in history. I don't know about all that, but this article here talks about how reports of suspected child sex trafficking increased 846% between 2010 and 2015, largely due to the use of the internet, according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Now, I'm not so sure about that stat because that just seems fucking outrageous that it increased that much during that time compared to before, because it's not like there weren't any websites that would allow people to traffic people. So but that's just one number that someone has printed up. And the law he signed was titled the Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act. I think this law also really allowed some of the law enforcement agencies to shut down some of the websites that were known for allowing human trafficking on their websites, maybe even profiting off of it. So in this article, news.ntd.tv, it does mention that Days before Trump signed the bill, federal authorities seized and shut down Backpage.com, the largest human trafficking portal in the United States. 7 of the company's executives were arrested and indicted on with 93 counts, including facilitating prostitution and money laundering. The indictment charges that teenage girls were trafficked on the website. Some of the girls were killed. So if it does turn out that Backpage.com was profiting off of modern slavery, it's really good that they got shut down and the heads of that website got arrested. Because the longer it goes before people get arrested for serious crimes or don't get punished at all, the more likely it is for you, me, or someone that we know gets taken up and gets thrown into the slave trade. So we gotta give credit where credit's due, and President Trump did a good call with going after human trafficking.